Thank you, Senator Young. Senator Cantwell, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman, and I thank you and Ranking Member Baldwin for this important hearing and the witnesses for being here. We're here today to talk about some of the most innovative things that could help our economy going forward, but I want to mention we do have an NSF AI Education Act that Senator Moran and I have introduced, and it talks about some of the workforce issues you guys have been discussing, and a Small Business AI Training Act that also was Senator Moran, so that we're getting this across all aspects of our economy, and a Future of AI Act that my colleagues, Senator Young and Hickenlooper and Blackburn and I, this is about voluntary standards for infrastructure and innovation, mostly on safety and security. But the thing I wanted to focus on is the science side of the equation. I represent a big national lab, but the laboratories across our country represent a unique opportunity to take science research that basically might take you years to do and now drive it down to months. And so one of the things I'm very worried about that we cut 10,000 STEM PhDs from the federal agencies in 2025. So that's not a good idea. I represent also one of the most scientific regions of our country, and so we like scientists because they're in there creating the next generation of economic competitiveness and solutions. And certainly when you look at the massive amount of AI investment that China's making, you want to keep your scientific workforce because they're going to help you. But one of the things that I'm most interested in hearing from maybe you, Mr. Morrow, or Dr. Shelton, is how transformative biology and chemistry lab work could be, compressing it into a few months. As I mentioned, the Pacific Northwest Lab is doing that already on deploying autonomous experimental platforms that you're basically, creating everything from discovery in bioenergy to advanced materials and fusion, but you're getting it done in months instead of years. And so I would assume that people think that this kind of AI, I would call it AI accelerated discovery, is worth the commitment and worth getting this done, and probably one of the most important things that we could be doing. Dr. Shelton or Mr. Morrow, either one.
I'd just say one general thing here is that we can make alignments of our computing, our AI systems, our data, and our talent, but we have to have the ongoing basic scientific activity functioning at a high level as well. Because really, all of that is essentially trading data for the next iteration of all of that innovation. So I think that's one of the things that a comprehensive attempt to leverage AI for national good would want to look at, is making sure that you have all dimensions of the AI machinery working. And we do think that actual scientific activity and the talent it collects is absolutely central.
Dr. Shelton.
So logistics and warehouse work has already seen the problem that in that industry we call islands of automation. So you may have a conveyor belt and you may have a ground vehicle that's carrying something, and you have to get a piece of material transferred from the autonomous ground vehicle over to the conveyor belt. Academic research has similar problems, although typically with higher tech devices where you have existing automated processes, say a PCR machine that does DNA analysis and some other piece of lab equipment that you have to connect together. And robotics and specifically general purpose platforms are a way to address that. There is also, and this is not my field, although I do have friends who work in this, one of the most exciting things I think that AGI or narrow AGI specifically is able to offer up is vastly outsized performance within a particular problem area. So if you're familiar with the AlphaFold project out of DeepMind looking at protein folding, you can get AIs that are superhumanly good at a very narrow task, and that feeding into a lab structure that's highly automated allows you to go from the conceptual computation side of it down to the wet lab work in a very compressed process.
Okay, so somebody at home, how do they understand that, what you just said? I mean, I'm
Sure.
just trying to say, we spend a lot of money on our national labs. We've
Yep.
already decided they are critical to our competitiveness as a nation. And we're also proud of our universities, but when I look at UW versus PNNL, we're talking about a huge size difference in the amount of research that's done. So now if you're saying you're going to apply AI to that and basically translate that science into faster application, as I'm saying, not years, but months, then I think this is a huge initiative that we should be undertaking, is to take all of that research. You just gave one example.
Right.
But you're basically taking one of our big research arms and you're basically saying, let's make sure we apply AI to it, because it really is one of our most competitive R&D efforts, right?
One of the things, and we've seen this in robotics research itself, is you have a human who comes up with an idea and wants to see that translated into something practical. So for your question of how would I explain this to someone who's not sitting here from the perspective of robotics land, you have an idea, you have to get that translated into some sort of physical reality, and then you have to test that physical reality. I think where AI allows us to inject the best short-term safety-controlled piece of this is to work with the human researcher to get the math part of the process turned into something physical that can then be tested, whether it's in the medical space or elsewhere in industry, and allow us to actually reduce something to practice as rapidly as possible.
Yeah, just the last point, I know I'm over my time, it's that we're spending like about $10 billion on lab efforts that are all about all these issues. So I'm just saying, one area to double your investment is to basically say, we're spending $10 billion here, so we've already decided we think this is really, really important. We're saying, apply AI to that effort to make it more efficient, because we've already decided that's where we're spending our money. And you just gave two really good examples of what that acceleration can deliver. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.